You do not need to attend on Saturday because it's going to be the exact same information, and I wouldn't want to inundate you with the same information and waste your time on our lovely weekend that we have coming up. Okay, so let's talk about DPR a little bit. The mission. The mission of DPR is to promote health and wellness, conserve the natural environment, and provide universal access to both parks and recreation services. And so that is what we strive to do every single day when we come to work. So some of our programs and services, as you know, we have recreation centers, and in those recreation centers, we have a variety of sports, health, and fitness programs, a variety of senior programs, teen programs, and other youth programs. We also have therapeutic recreation programs, and for the information of the folks on the call, the Therapeutic Recreation Center is historically located on G Street Southeast off of Minnesota Avenue. We are building a brand new therapeutic recreation center. So temporarily, this division is housed at the Woody Ward Recreation Center over in Ward 7, which is off of on Southern Avenue. The TR Center, the ribbon cutting, the groundbreaking has already happened. So the new TR Center will start to be erected very shortly. We're looking forward to a very beautiful and exciting building coming up. So we can't wait for that to be finished and move our TR programmatic division back into that brand new shiny building. We also have a variety of cultural arts programs, environmental programs, as well as leisure activities and games. Also in our inventory, parks. So in our parks, we have fields, playgrounds, courts, both basketball, tennis courts, walking and biking trails, community gardens, and dog parks. And then, of course, everyone's favorite, our aquatic facilities, where we have swim lessons, competitive swimming, we have spray parks, scuba diving, and water polo. So let's take a closer look at our inventory. We have over 70 recreation centers. I actually need to update this because we have a few that have come back online. And contained therein, we have 29 gymnasiums. We have a variety of fitness centers, which are free to DC residents. So please make sure you register to get your free fitness center card membership. And we have 101 playgrounds, which we have some of the best in the country, as was evidenced by a recent award that the DC Parks and Recreation Department received from a national body. As far as our outdoors, we have 930 acres of green space. We have parks, athletic fields, different sorts of courts. You heard me talk about basketball courts and tennis courts earlier. We have a variety of dog parks. We also have urban gardens, which we're very, very excited about. Teaching people about agriculture and within the city limits has been very exciting and very rewarding. We have quite a few of our urban gardens who have free veggie giveaways throughout the weeks. So make sure that you are getting information about that from our website to see when people are giving away free veggies that we've actually grown in our urban gardens. We partner with 6 urban farms. We have a couple of music recording studios. We have active beehives that we actually pull honey from. We have community compost sites, and we have about 7 boxing rings. So as you know, we train nationally ranked boxers in some of our facilities. So aquatics facilities, as I mentioned, this is what everybody looks forward to in the summer, somewhere to go in and splash around and get wet. So we have our 63 aquatic facilities featuring outdoor pools, children's pools, indoor pools, spas, and spray parks. And right now, our pools are open on the weekends and beginning when summer camp starts, or actually when DCPS lets out, we will have during the week hours for our aquatic facilities in addition to the weekend hours. So now let's get into the meat of what we're here to talk about. DPR Summer Camps 2022. We offer a wide variety of camps. We have multiple camps in our inventory. And yes, when we opened up registration, those registration slots, they went very, very quickly. So everybody on this call, you can count yourself one of the lucky ones. You were able to snag one of those slots. There are a lot of disappointed people. I wish I could offer more slots for more campers to be able to attend, but unfortunately we are limited based on our inventory and our amenities at our different facilities. So some of the camps that we offer: Aqua Day Camp, basketball, cheer, Discovery Camp, which is for our 6 to 10-year-olds. It's like a general day camp. We have our therapeutic rec camps, which I spoke of earlier. Those camps will be housed at the Woody Ward Recreation Center until the new facility has been completed. This year, we're going to have a STEAM camp. We're going to have a culinary camp, which we call Cookery 202 Junior. It's modeled after our Cookery 202 program that we hold at Kenilworth Recreation Center. Little Explorers, probably one of our most sought after camps because it's for our 3 to 5 year olds. We have a multi-sport camp, a soccer camp, tennis camps, and boxing camps. And this year we'll have a dance explosion. So we've expanded the dance camp a little bit. Previously, we've done a ballet camp, but we decided to add the other dances in there as well. So some of our, just to kind of give you an idea how our camp locations are chosen, we always have to look at the space and location availability. That includes looking at current and upcoming construction and or renovation projects. So, some of our inventory, it's taken a beating. It may have been open for 10 or 15 years, but 10 or 15 years having thousands and thousands of people come through the doors and use the facility sometimes requires us to take a site offline and do some renovation to it. There are some sites that are older than I am, right, that are going to come down completely and be completely rebuilt, i.e. the TR Center. And then we look at historical offerings, what has been popular in what particular parts of town. And that doesn't solely determine where camps are, because we know that sometimes we may have a dance camp at Chevy Chase, but hey, we may want that east of the river this time. So it may be offered at like a Bald Eagle, which is what's going to happen this year. And then we look at safety. We want to make sure that our locations have been kept up by our partner agency, DGS, and that everything that we require for safety of our children has been met. And so all of these factors and a couple of others are really what kind of goes into how we choose camp locations. We want to say a big thank you, right? The popularity of DC camps has returned to its pre-COVID demand. We have been slow walking back since 2020. In 2020, we did the Fun and Sun camps. We kind of made a last minute decision. The mayor said, no, we need to have camp, not just camp at home, but in-person camp, and we're just going to be very safe about it. We were very pleased that in 2020, all the camps that we ran, we didn't have any instances of COVID infection. So we, took our COVID precautions very, very seriously, and we made sure that your children were safe in our spaces. We'll go back to 2021. We did a little bit more as far as camp offering, still kept the cohort small, but we still wanted to make sure that we maintain a fun environment while being safe. And so we were able to accomplish that in 2021. Now we're back to 2022, and we are trying to operate as if we are pre-COVID, right? We're still going to take those same precautions, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but we want to try to get back to the outside being open. So, we're following along with the trend of outside being open, and we just want to thank you for constantly patronizing our camps, and we're happy that we're able to provide this service for you. So let's look at some important dates. So as you know, camps at DPR are broken out into 4 2-week sessions. And so before you'll see session 1 dates, session 2, session 3, and session 4 dates. For those of you who are attending camp that is a camp that is located in a DCPS location, you will only have sessions 1 through 3. And the reason for that is because DCPS needs to prepare to receive your children for the school year beginning at the end of August. And it takes them quite a bit of time to get everything cleaned and sanitized and floors stripped and things of that nature. So if you are in a DCPS location, your sessions will be 1 through 3 only. All of the recreation centers will have all 4 sessions. And so if you look at the date of session 1, you'll notice that it's June 29th, which is a Wednesday. So we've opened on days other than Mondays before, but that's not typically what we do. We typically like to start the Monday after DCPS closes. Since DCPS moved their calendar year, we moved ours as well. So I think they were supposed to get out on the 25th, 24th. And since they're not doing that now, they're closing on the 27th. We wanted to make sure that we were in alignment with that so that we don't interrupt any kind of education. And so we will be starting on Wednesday, June 29th. Also during session 1, we have the 4th of July holiday, which is Monday, July 4th. So you'll notice that if you paid for session 1, it was a little bit cheaper because we did prorate that for those dates that we will not be having a full 2-week session. Okay. So session 2 starts July 11th. It runs through the 22nd. Session 3 starts July 25th and will run through July 25th and will run through August 5th. And then session 4 starts on August the 8th and will run through August the 19th. So essentially our camps begin on Wednesday, June 29th. We will conclude all camps by Friday, August 19th. So some of our summer camp policies. I want to start with our program start and end times because this is very important. So our programs, unless it's a rec camp, REC, Every program except for rec runs daily, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Those of you who are in any camp other than rec also have the option of purchasing a before and after care package. If you have before and after care, you can come as early as 8 o'clock and stay as late as 6 o'clock. That is an additional charge. So if you in fact need that, I encourage you to go onto our website and register for that. If you have a camp slot for any camp other than rec camp, we automatically hold a before and after care slot for you because we figure you may need it. If you don't have to do anything further. But if you do, please make sure that you go in and put it into your cart and pay for that service as well. So as I mentioned, camp starts at 9, ends at 5 o'clock. Rec camp starts at 9, ends at 3 o'clock. Rec camp does not have before and after care. And rec camp is essentially just a different price point camp for us. It's very similar to Discovery Camp. The age is extended just so slightly, but there is no before and after care option because it is a different price point for that camp. In the mornings, as you're dropping your children off, if you have before care, you can drop your children off as early as 7:50 a.m. for 8 o'clock before care start time. If you don't have before and after care, you can drop your children off as early as 8:50 a.m. for 9 a.m. start time. Now, on the flip side of that, when camp ends at 5 o'clock or at 3 o'clock for rec camp, there is no grace period for that. So you must be there to pick your children up when camp ends. If you have aftercare with, of course, every camp except for rec camp, you can pick your children up as late as 6 o'clock. And the same holds true for that. There is no grace period for that. So it's very important that you're there to pick your children up at the end of the camp day. Okay. So we require a couple of documents, and this is really just for our general information and for the safety of the children. There is a participation waiver, there's an emergency contact form, a policy acknowledgement form, and a trip waiver. So these 4 forms, typically we email them to you, just like you got the invitation about this call tonight. We will email you that entire packet, and we recommend that you print those forms out, complete them before you come to camp. We will, however, have copies of them at the campsite. So if for whatever reason you don't have access to a printer, fear not, we'll make sure that we have copies of each of these 4 forms when you arrive. So the participation waiver is essentially a waiver that says you authorize your child to participate in a DPR camp. The emergency contact form is self-explanatory. That kind of says your name, your contact number, any allergies your child may have, information that we need to be able to get on the spot is filled out on the emergency contact form. The policy acknowledgement form is essentially you confirming that you have received a copy of our handbook. That handbook will be available on the website probably in the next week or so. I'm making a couple of tweaks to it. Tania has actually gone in and made all the updates, but I just want to make a few tweaks before we put it up on the website. That is something we can also email. And then there's a trip waiver. So the last couple of years, we haven't done field trips. We did do pool trips. We slid pool trips back in last year, but this year we're full-fledged doing field trips and pool trips. So we require a waiver that says that you allow for your child to attend the different field trips and pool trips. The late pickup policy, I mentioned it earlier during the program start and end times. It's very important that you pick your children up on time. I can't stress that enough because our staff has to, they're only allowed to perform youth development activities for a certain number of hours, and that's the actual law. So we must make sure that our children are picked up on time. If you pick up your child late, let me tell you what's going to happen. So the first time we'll just have a verbal conversation. The facilitator may say to you, hey, Ms. Butler, you picked your daughter up late. Remember that pickup time is at 6 o'clock. You do have aftercare, so your pickup time is at 6 o'clock. And that will be a verbal conversation. The second time, we will assess a fee, and that fee must be paid before your child can return to camp. Once it becomes habitual, meaning after the second time, we have a conversation about whether or not these drop-off and pickup times are working for you and your family, and whether or not this program is good enough for your family to continue to attend, because we want to make sure that everyone follows the same rules and adheres to the same guidelines. Okay. So I'm going to talk really briefly about safety and COVID protocols. And as a reminder, if you all have questions that are coming to you as I'm speaking, please feel free to dump those in the chat. We're going to go through the chat line by line and address all of your questions. So safety is the number one goal of us here at DPR camps. We want to make sure our kids are safe within the building. We want to make sure that they're safe when they go on field trips. We want to make sure that they're safe when they're at the pool. And so in order to encourage safety and make sure that that is adhered to strictly, there are a couple of things that we all need to work together on. And so some of the safety protocols, and they're all listed in your handbook, you'll be able to see them. But some of the basic safety protocols will include your attire. It'll include making sure that when you drop off and pick up your children that you sign them in and sign them out. We want to make sure that the people that are allowed to drop off and pick up your children are actually on this emergency contact form. And once you see the emergency contact form, you'll see where there's information where you may want to list a second or third person that is able to come and pick your children up. We will be requesting an ID from whoever is listed as the pickup and drop off person. So please have that on the ready, and anyone who's coming in your stead, please make sure that they have that available. And again, that's just for safety. It was not, we're being, not that we're being nitpicky, but we are being kind of nitpicky because we want to make sure that your kids remain safe. Okay. All of our staff have been, have gone through a suitability process, which means they have all been background checked to confirm that they're safe to work around your children. So you don't have to worry about any of those kinds of situations. We check for crimes against children throughout. There's a national database that we look through when we do our fingerprinting of employees. They are also required to be vaccinated. And so vaccinated and boosted, actually. So we want to make sure that we keep your kids safe in that regard as well. So as it relates to the COVID protocols, as I mentioned before, all staff are required to be vaccinated and boosted. We encourage, if your child is of age, to be able to receive a COVID vaccination. We, of course, encourage that. We are not requiring that, though. So there's nothing that you have to show to us that says that your child has been vaccinated for COVID. If you elect to test them as often as you want to, that is completely your call. We do not require any sort of COVID testing. We do ask, though, that if you notice that your child is not feeling well, whether it's COVID, flu, summer cold, or whatever that might be, that you keep your children at home, okay? The same request is going to go to our staff. If you don't feel well, we don't want you to come to work. So that same rule will be in place for our campers. If your campers are not feeling well, please keep them at home. Okay, so we want to make sure that we keep everyone safe, keep everyone healthy. So that's from our children to our staff to any of our support people who are in the buildings. Please keep your children at home if they are sick. If in fact, okay, I need someone to go on mute for me, please. Thank you. If in fact your child comes to camp and we notice that they're not really feeling that well, we're not going to test them for COVID. We're not going to take their temperature, but we can kind of, as youth development professionals, we can tell if a child's not feeling well, especially once we've gotten to know that child. So if they're acting a little weird, kind of sluggish, and they're not feeling well, we will place a call to you to let you know that your child's not feeling well and may ask you to come and pick them up. We will still have an isolation room for any child who is displaying any sort of symptom, whether it be coughing, whether it be nasal discharge, especially if it's discolored. We do know that people have allergies, so we do know that some of our children have allergies. If you want to share that information with the facilitator in the beginning, let the facilitator know. Listen, my child suffers from seasonal allergies, so you may hear her or him sniff. That doesn't mean that they're sick. It just means that their allergies are kicking in. If you have an allergy pill that you want to give them, make sure you do that before you leave, because we are not authorized to administer medication. So you want to make sure that if they're given a prescribed or over-the-counter allergy medication, please make sure that you do that before they come to camp. Okay. So I think that I probably hit on all of the COVID protocols. Let me just double check. Okay. So the other thing, as I mentioned, we won't take their temperature with a thermometer, but if they feel hot, just as we touch their arm or touch their forehead or touch their neck, if they feel warm and feel like they might have a fever, that is something else that we'll call you for and require you to come and pick your children up immediately. We've had instances in the past where we've called parents and said, hey, Susie's not feeling that great. Can you please come and pick her up? We can tell that she doesn't feel good. She's not herself. She's not her normal self, and she feels a little warm to the touch. So we will isolate Susie, but it's very important that you come and you send someone to pick Susie up ASAP. One, because Susie, if she doesn't feel good, she doesn't want to be at camp. laying her head on the desk is not going to be sufficient, and she just doesn't feel well. She wants to be probably at home in her bed with her parents, her brothers, sisters, whatever, what have you. So please make sure that you come and pick her up. It's not okay to wait until 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock when the camp day is over if Susie has been suffering since this morning, okay? So do not send your children to camp if they don't feel well or if they are displaying symptoms. If we notice symptoms, we may have them isolated, and we will ask you to come and pick up your child if your child is displaying symptoms that show that they might be sick. So on to the next bullet, communicating with staff. Each of the camps will receive a cell phone. It is important that on the first day of camp, when you meet your facilitator, an assistant facilitator, or camp aide, that you get that phone number. They probably will have it written in really big numbers on a piece of chart paper with their phone number and name. Please make sure that you jot that down so that you communicate with them on that device. That is a government device, and that is our preference of how you communicate with staff during the summer camp months. Some of them, may give out their personal number. I am strongly discouraging that. I am encouraging them to give out the government device so that we can have everything in one place where it needs to be. So really quickly, the behavior policy. I know that everyone has these amazing angels that come to camp and they don't do anything that requires a redirection of behavior. So I'm talking about everybody else's kids, not any of yours. But if we run into behavior issues, we do have a tiered behavior policy that we follow, and it will depend, of course, on the severity of what has happened, right? So there's some things that are an absolute no-no. Fighting is one. Attacking a staff member is another. There are quite a few. And again, these will be listed in your handbook. As youth development professionals, we do everything in our power to redirect behaviors. We don't discipline children, right? In the sense that, in the defined word of disciplining them, we try to redirect behaviors. And so our youth development professionals receive a lot of training on how to modify behaviors by redirecting them. And so we don't do things like yell, we don't use profanity, we don't put people in a corner, we don't do any of those things that really are not very productive to getting the behavior redirected. If we continue to have challenges where we can't really redirect those behaviors, we'll give you a call. We could give you a call and ask if there's something that you do at home maybe that could help to redirect some of these behaviors that your child may or may not be displaying. Usually those work, right? If I tell a kid, we're going to call mom if you continue to exhibit these behaviors, they usually get it together. But in some instances, they may not. And so there may come a point where if there's habitual behavior challenges, we need to have a conversation to determine whether or not this program is a good fit for your family. And this is something that I do not like to do, but I have in the past because I do recognize that sometimes this just isn't a good fit. We will remove a child from camp if the behaviors continue and it becomes so disruptive or even dangerous to other campers or to staff members. So it's important that you have conversations with your children, just as you would when they're going to school or going to, grandparents' home or out to dinner, on how, what the expectations are as it relates to their behavior. And so the medication policy, I mentioned it briefly earlier, we are not authorized to administer medications. So we do recognize a couple of things. We know that sometimes children come with maybe an asthma pump, right? Typically, children who have an asthma pump have been instructed by their practitioner on how to administer it. And so usually the kid will tell us they'll know when they need a little breath or two, and they go over in their corner and they know exactly what they're doing. Okay, if there's a situation where you think your child might need a little assistance, then I encourage you to have a conversation with the facilitator. The facilitator can help to direct and encourage them how to do it correctly to make sure that they get the administration of the breath that they need. But we are not authorized to administer medication. So that means Benadryl, that means ibuprofen. If someone's having cramps, we can't give you an ibuprofen. Even if you say, hey, it's okay to give her this ibuprofen, we are not allowed to administer it. Now, the one thing we are allowed to administer is an EpiPen. So if your child has been prescribed an EpiPen, when you send the EpiPen to camp, there will need to be a copy of the physician's order for this EpiPen that clearly displays your child's name and directions on how to administer the EpiPen. So all of the summer camp staff will attend a training on how to administer an EpiPen correctly. So belongings, we know we have kids that wear a lot of the same things. You know, it's hip to wear certain types of shoes or wear certain shirts, and that's fine. We ask that you label your children's belongings with their full name and the phone number, because a lot of things look alike. We don't want them to get mixed up. So that's including a backpack if you send your children with a backpack to camp. That includes their blanket for our little explorers who do take a rest throughout the day. We want to make sure that their blanket, pillow, teddy bear, whatever you're sending with them, that is clearly labeled with the child's name so that we know who it belongs to. We talked about dress earlier today, the training that we had. You know, I was one of those kids that loved to wear, I still like to wear skirts and dresses and things like that because they just make me feel pretty. But it's not necessarily appropriate every day to have on a dress at camp. And here's why. These kids are allowed to do just that, be children. And so if you're doing flips, if you're doing dance, if you are on the swings, if you're playing a game of kickball, sometimes the dress is not super comfortable. Now, if your child likes to wear dresses and that's just what it is, skirts and dresses, we just ask that you put a pair of shorts on underneath so that they can be free to express themselves through any kind of pickup game, through any kind of gymnastics or flipping over or whatever it is that they're doing on that particular day in camp. That includes footwear. Make sure that we're not sending the kids to camp with sandals on. So sandals are cute, but when we're trying to run or when we're playing, you know, we're jumping rope and things of that nature, sandals can pop. They lead to injury sometimes because kids are, like I said, they're being children and we want them to do that. We have to make sure that they're appropriately dressed. So a comfortable pair of tennis shoes, comfortable pair of socks, and the appropriate attire, whether it be shorts and a t-shirt, or if it's a dress, just make sure you put on some shorts underneath it so that they can be free to be themselves. So on to swimwear. We encourage for our swimmers to wear one-piece outfits. If they're a trunks wearer, they can wear swimming trunks. They won't be able to get into the water with a t-shirt on and the trunks. So make sure that if they're wearing trunks, they're comfortable enough with taking their top off. The lifeguards won't allow them to be in the water with trunks and a t-shirt. Now, there are some of those swim shirts that are very close fitting. Those are completely fine to wear. Our aquatic staff will allow your children to enter the water with that on. I encourage one-piece swimwear or trunks with one of the snug fitting shirts or no shirt at all. Also, we want to make sure that they have a pair of swim shoes or a pair of flip-flops, and that's just for going back and forth from the bus to the pool or from the rec center to the pool so that their feet are comfortable. You know, the ground can get really, really warm in the summer, and we don't want them, you know, burning their little feet from walking from one place to another because they don't have on proper swim footwear. So as it relates to food, I'm very happy. My director was adamant about making sure this was put in place for this year. Every single solitary site will have meals, breakfast and lunch every single day. We have an amazing new provider who will be doing our meals for us. And so we're very excited. So back in the day, there used to be a situation, and by back in the day, I'm talking like 2 years ago, certain areas of the city did not get free meals. And that was based on the schools that were in proximity to the recreation centers. And so if there was a school in proximity to the recreation center where most of the children in the school were not farm recipients, meaning free and reduced meals, then that rec center did not qualify for free meals. My director worked very hard this year to make sure that that didn't make a difference. Wherever you are in a DPR recreation center camp or DPR at DCPS camp, those children will have breakfast and lunch every single day. And so they eat lunch around 11:30, 12:30. By 4 or 5 o'clock, they may be a little hungry again. We do have share tables because there's some kids, you know, they may get a pack of crackers that they don't want, so they put those on the share table. So I would encourage you still to, though, maybe send a snack with your child to eat later on in the day, because we know that sometimes our kids get a little hungry. If they're anything like mine was, you know, they were like bottomless pits and just can eat all day. Also, as it relates to food, there are a couple of no-nos that we have. If you decide you want to send your child with a meal every day, you're completely welcome to do that. We just ask that you be reminded that DPR is a no nut facility follower. So that means peanuts, walnuts, any kind of tree nut, we cannot bring into the facility because there are a lot of people with different sorts of nut allergies. And so we are a completely nut-free facility. If you use sun butter and things of that nature, those are completely okay. I think sun butter is fine. We also ask that when you send snacks, that they're healthy snacks. We want to try to encourage healthy eating. So please don't send a lot of chips. Don't send any candy. Don't send anything red. That's juices, food, or whatever, anything red. That has a lot of dyes in it. Do not send any sunflower seeds because they are prohibited in every recreation center across our inventory. Okay. So next I want to talk potty training. This is a non-negotiable. Every camper must be fully potty trained. Okay, so that means if your child still wears pull-ups and they are not fully potty trained. No pull-ups, no diapers. They must be fully potty trained wearing underwear. So we do know sometimes, especially with our little explorers, we might have a child who, has an accident. It happens. They're nervous. They're in a new place. They're meeting new people, or they just didn't make it to the bathroom in time. We know that happens. And we recognize as youth development professionals, the difference between a little oopsie or if they're not potty trained fully. So even if you're in the process of potty training, if they're not fully potty trained, they cannot attend camp. Okay, and that's a non-negotiable. So as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be doing field trips again. We're very excited about field trips. We have some amazing places that we've secured as far as field trips are concerned. DPR does provide transportation. We have a DPR fleet of buses and vans, as well as contracted buses and vans that we transport the children back and forth to these different field trips. All of the field trips are within the DC area. So there may be some in Baltimore, there may be some in Manassas, Virginia, or there may be one in Prince George's County or in somewhere else in the city. So field trips are all local. They won't take longer than 45 minutes to get there because we know the attention span of our children on those buses is not very long. If they're sitting longer than that, it's because there's traffic, okay? But all of them are within 45 minutes or less of the recreation center. Swimming trips. We're very, very happy to have our swimming trips. Everybody loves a pool in the summertime and our campers are no different. So we want to make sure that they are able to take advantage of swimming. There are some locations, let's say Kenilworth. I was there today. Kenilworth has its own pool. There is a very strong possibility that you'll be doing more swimming than others because your pool is on site. But what I want you to remember is that although you have a pool on site, there may be a site like say, Bald Eagle that does not have a pool. So Bald Eagle may need to travel to a pool, which means if you're at Kenilworth or if you're at Fairview Hope and you have a pool, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to get in the pool every single day because there's going to be some other sites that have to come to you to utilize the swimming facilities. Every camp swims at least once a week. And so at least once a week, you can expect that there will be a swimming trip. Your facilitators will let you know the day before, that swimming trip is tomorrow. Make sure you bring their swimwear. Make sure that they have their flip-flops and their towel so that they can enjoy the swimming trip. If you are not a fan of the swimming, that's completely okay. Your children still have to dress and go to the swimming pool. And the reason is because the facilitators are taking all of the children and there won't be anybody left at the site necessarily to kind of keep an eye on your one child who you've elected to have them not swim. They need to get dressed to be on the pool deck. So that's why it's important to still send their swim clothes so that they can at least be in the proper attire to sit on the pool deck. And we'll allow them to sit on the pool deck if you do not want them to swim. So refund policy, we have already passed the dates for refunds. The sessions 1 and 2, I believe was June the 1st. And so if there is a refund that you were requested for those dates, we are past that point. July 1st, I believe, is sessions 3 and session 4 for you to request a refund. And so if you want a refund, we don't ask a lot of questions. You might have your reasons one way or the other, and we'll respect that. We just ask that you complete the form through the Google Doc, which is available on our website. And you can also expect that there will be an admin charge of 10% deducted from the cost of what you paid for the camp. But refunds are not a problem. All right, so next steps. When you get your handbook, there'll be some supplies in there that you may want to gather. And I've mentioned a couple of them before, a backpack to throw their camp stuff in, a blanket for the little explorers who, when they're lying down in the afternoon resting, they may want a blanket. But begin to gather those up. I mean, I can't believe it, but literally from yesterday, camp is 3 weeks away, and it rolls around very quickly. We're already almost at the middle of June. So begin to gather those things up. Make sure your child has the appropriate clothing, shoes, and swimwear, which I just mentioned. And talk to your child about what to expect at camp and how to conduct themselves in a camp environment. And most importantly for your children, make sure that they know how to have fun with their camp friends and their camp facilitators. That is tantamount to what we do here at DPR. We want to make sure that everybody has a great time at our camps, and that's what we're all about, keeping them safe, but making sure that they have a very good time. All right, so we're at the point where we have questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Tania has, where are we in the chat? Hold on for a second. All right, I'm gonna scroll up, Tania, and start looking at some of these questions. Just let me know if I miss one, okay? All right, give me 1 second. Okay, why won't you scroll? Okay, there you go. Sorry, I'm on a new device, and yeah, I haven't quite learned how to manipulate it yet. Okay, let's see. Tania, I might need your help, darling. Because I think I'm at the top, but then I'm not at the top. Oh, wait, I think I got it.
Excuse me.
Oh, I love it. It is, because I see a couple of questions in the chat. So the chat is enabled. Yes, because that's how we want you to ask the questions. All right, I found it, guys. Okay. Let me maximize it.
Sorry, but chat is not enabled for all of us. I can't access it. It's grayed out.
All right, Tania, can you confirm that the chat is enabled? I see quite a few questions in the chat, so I'm not sure what's happening on some devices. So again, we're going to ask everyone to stay on mute, and I'm going to go through the chat and answer the questions. Okay, so the first question was, will the presentation be emailed? We will not email the presentation, but we will post a copy of it or a recording of it on our website. And again, the only things that we'll email are the forms that we ask that you complete before you get to camp and one of the handbooks. Okay, someone had a hard stop at 6:30. It's 6:46, so she might miss this answer. It says, will any informational data required for the camp attendees be posted elsewhere? So for the benefit of everyone else on the call that was able to stay, yes, it will be posted on the website. All right. So this is a question about the Tacoma pool, when it will open. And the Tacoma pool, from what I understand, will be open in time for camp. So I'm going to say June 29th. In the instance that the Tacoma pool is not open, we do have a backup plan, and we will communicate that to anyone who's registered for Tacoma's Aqua Day Camp. But please report to Tacoma on day one. All right. Could you please let me know what kind of security measures are put in place in the summer camps to keep our kids safe, including staff training and background checks? So our staff undergo about 7 days of training. That training will begin on the 21st of June, and it will conclude on the 28th, which is the day before camp starts. They are all required to undergo background checks before they can even be onboarded. So they won't even be in my training until they have been background checked and cleared. And once that happens, they will receive an onboarding packet from HR. So until all of that is taken care of, they won't even be anywhere near our sites running camp. So when is the latest you can register for before and after care? You can register for before and after care the day before camp if you want to. There is no limit, because as I mentioned, if you have a secured camp slot, there is a secured before and after care slot for you as well. You just need to go in and register for it. All right, do we need to call if we want to pick up earlier than 5? That would be appreciated. Remember that sometimes they may be out on a trip, out on a nature walk. They may have an enhancement of someone coming in to provide a service. So if you're picking up earlier than 5, just give the facilitator a call on that camp phone. If they don't answer the camp phone because they're engaging with children, then yes, you can call the site. And usually somebody at the site will run the message up to this facilitator to let them know that you're going to be coming in a little earlier. Do you need a new form for each camp session? Yes, we do. Because we don't want to assume that everyone's coming to every session. There will be people who come to session 1 who don't come to any other session and vice versa. So yes, for every session, we will request a new form. I enrolled my daughter into a rec camp and they are offering before and after care and I paid for it too. Is this a mistake? That is a mistake. There is no before and after care for rec camp. So if you paid $20 for before and after care for rec camp, please send us an email and we will get that rectified. But no, there should not be any before and after care for rec camp. We will not honor that. So yes, I'm going to send the handbook via email, as I mentioned earlier. Another question about the presentation. I will not send this presentation out, but a copy of a presentation like this one or the one I do Saturday will be posted on the website. We are not requiring health forms. That has not been a mandate that's come down from DOH for DPR, so we will not be requiring a health form be provided. Can you please give guidance on how to enroll in before and after care and what are the hours? So enrolling in before and after care is the same as what you did when you registered for camp. Just go onto the WebTrack site, look up summer camp. You'll see the before and after care options there. Please register for the before and after care that your child is enrolled in, because if you're registered at, say, Palisades, and you try to enroll them for before and after care that's not Palisades, the system will not allow you to do that because it won't recognize that you're registered somewhere else or registered at all. So if you're registered for Palisades before and after care, please make sure you register for if you're registered for Palisades camp, make sure you register for Palisades before and after care. The hours for before and after care are 8 a.m. through 6 p.m. So next question, will you send a link out with access to the required forms? If we don't send a link, it will be attachments like PDF attachments that you can print. And yes, they'll need to be downloaded because we need hard copies of these because this is what's going to be placed in a binder on site at camp. So for instance, if I'm a facilitator and I'm working with 25 children, I don't have the time to go to a computer, log in, look in WebTrack and try to find your information. It's much easier if there's an emergency for me to flip open this binder and find your child's information and give you a call if necessary. If there are children with very problematic behavior, will they be asked to leave camp? Again, it depends on the severity of the challenge. We do have some incredible youth development professionals who are very good at redirecting behaviors. If it continues to become problematic and I'm pulled into it, we probably are at the point where we remove a child from camp. Yes. Okay, what is the policy for lateness or absence? My child has a school summer orientation session that overlaps with 1 week of camp. So if you have a concern or something that's happening that you already registered your child for, just let the facilitator know and just say, hey, you know what, during this week, we're going to be out of town. During this week, there's something that they have to do for school. During this week, I'm going to keep them home because we have family coming in from out of town. I want them to spend that time with them. Just let the facilitator know so that they know where their camp kids are, because they also get worried when they don't see you for a while. Right. And so that kind of puts their mind at ease. They already know that you have this situation coming up. As it relates to tardiness, again, I encourage you to get there at 9 o'clock on a daily basis. We know that, especially as we get going back to school, we have physicals, we have doctor's appointments, we have dentist appointments, orthodontist appointments. If those are coming up, please just let your facilitator know so that they can be prepared for that. It's very important that they're there at 9 o'clock on a daily basis because they may be going on a field trip and that field trip may take 35, 40 minutes to get to. And so we want to make sure that they get the full benefit of the field trip day. So they might be pulling out at 9:15. So if you're rolling up at 9:30 and the kids are already gone on this field trip, we're going to ask that you take your child back with you because, again, there won't be anybody left at the site to really watch after your child because everyone else has gone on the field trip. All the adults have to go with all the children that are on the bus. So we encourage you to get there at 9 o'clock so that the kid can get the full day of the camp experience. All right, couple of questions. One, are individuals working with the children vetted for security clearance? Yes, they are. They do have to undergo a background check, and that is a national database check against. And then two, how do you know if you are in rec or not? So is that in a rec or not, or rec camp or not? Kim, can you type in the bottom, type into the chat? I just want to make sure I clarify. And I'll try to answer both scenarios. So how do you know if you are in rec or not? If you are in a rec center for camp, then that location is listed. So if you register for Ridge Road, you know that you'll be at Ridge Road Recreation Center because there isn't even a school named Ridge Road. If you registered for Lafayette, DPR at Lafayette, then you will be in the Lafayette school. Further, you were only able to register for sessions 1 through 3. So if you chose Lafayette and your child's in Discovery Camp and you're figuring out why you can't get session 4, it's because that particular camp is located in a school, it's housed in a school, which means that you will not be able to get session 4. And then what else that question might mean is how do you know if you're in a rec camp or not? So rec camp is an actual title, just like Little Explorer, just like basketball, just like Discovery. Rec camp was a completely different offering. And if you selected that one, it clearly states that you're registering for rec camp. Next question says, my child is attending Little Explorers. He is 3 and still takes a nap. Are we able to pick him up early, let's say 2 p.m., or would he not be suitable to attend camp? So they take a rest period, right? We don't call it a nap because we don't force the children to sleep. Some children don't want to sleep. They're good with just lying there, listening to some, jazz music, the lights turn down low, and that's okay. Some kids, though, are knocked out. Like if you ever walk into a rec camp, Little Explorers camp during that time frame, you'll hear snoring because these kids, we make sure that they're engaged all day. So some of them are knocked out. So yes, they will have a time that they go down for a little bit for about 35, 40 minutes so that they can make sure they rejuvenate and get themselves some rest. Because 8 hours a day is a long time for a toddler, right? A lot of them, especially like if they're not yet in school, doing activities for 8 hours a day can be quite exhausting. So we do have them go down a little bit in the afternoons. Typically it's after lunch. You are in fact able to pick your children up early. Totally your choice, but I would encourage you to allow them to enjoy the full camp day. But as a parent, you can make the decision that's best for your family. And of course, he's definitely suitable to attend camp, even if you want to pick them up every day at 2 o'clock. I'll tell you though, there will be some kids who are picked up at 2 o'clock and they're seeing their friends stay for another couple of hours, and you might have a fight on your hands in the car on the way home. Just saying. All right, are the camps fully staffed, giving workers shortages? So yes, there isn't any camp that we will have without the proper amount of staff following those ratios that I mentioned, or I might have mentioned earlier. So for the 3 to 5-year-olds, we have 3 staff per. And for the 6 to 10 or 12-year-olds, there are 2 adult staffers. We also have SYEPs, some of them who are actual, they're actual adults over 18. They will also undergo a background check because that's the law. We do have some SYEPs that are under that age, though, between 14 and 17. They don't have to undergo a background check, but we do not leave children unattended with SYEPs at any point. So yes, we do recognize there are a lot of worker shortages. It's been an interesting hiring season, but all camps will be fully staffed or they won't happen. Okay, I think this is supposed to say, do kids need to bring their own water, lunch, and snacks? They do not need to bring lunch or breakfast. They will get that when they come to the campsite. I do encourage you to send a snack with your child, and I encourage you to send a reusable water bottle. We have the filtered water fountains in most of the locations, and we do encourage children to hydrate throughout the day. So please send a water bottle. We don't provide bottled water for them. Send a reusable bottle. We'll make sure that they fill it up throughout the day and get that hydration in as necessary. And this is a good question. Does everything need to be cold and not needing a refrigerator? That is correct. So we don't have the space to refrigerate. If you send a child with a lunch or a breakfast, we do not have the capacity to refrigerate. So we want to make sure that you send something that is shelf livable. Okay. Something that can go into a cubby hole or on the table until it's time to consume. How many staff will be assigned? So as I mentioned earlier, the ratio for Little Explorers, so 3 to 5-year-olds, there's 1 child to 5 children. And then for our older kids, the ratio is 1 adult. I'm sorry, I meant to say 1 adult to 5 children for Little Explorers. And for our older kids, 6 and up, 1 adult to between 10 and 15. That can vary based on, whether or not you have a group that might be a little more rambunctious than others, right? But we do have a cushion of staff that we are also hiring to be able to fill in if there is a need for more than 2 staff at some of our bigger camps or camps for bigger children. Soccer camp does have before and after care, yes. The only camp that does not have before and after care is rec camp. And will they have to bring lunch and snacks? So they do not have to bring lunch, but you're more than welcome to send it if you prefer to send your child's lunch. And yes, I would encourage you to send snacks. Masking policy. So yes, there is a masking policy. We are requiring masks inside of the government buildings. So your children will be required to wear a mask. We ask that you send them with a mask every day. We will have a few spare ones here and there. We know sometimes the strap might pop or they might lose it, but we encourage you to send them with a mask every day and explain to them the rule that they're going to have to wear the mask inside the building. Now, if they're outside playing on the playground, they are not required to wear a mask while they're outside. They are not required to wear a mask while they're in the swimming pool. But inside the camp building, yes, they are required to wear a mask. Staff will also be required to wear masks. All right. If any child experiences some problem with the facility, is there a facility manager that we can talk to? So I would recommend you speak to a facilitator of the camp first. And I'm interested to see what kind of experience a child might have with the facility. So yes, if there is a child that has an experiences a problem with the facility, please reach out to the camp facilitator. That's going to be your go-to person for any sort of challenges you have with the camp or with the facility. And if it needs to be escalated, they will know what to do as far as escalation is concerned. Is there a refund policy if a child is removed? That's a very good question. And so again, that's on a case-by-case basis. We are not required to administer a refund or offer a refund to you if your child is removed for behavioral issues, right? So as I mentioned, before we get to that point of removing a child, there are a couple of steps that we take. Our staff make sure that they try to redirect those behaviors and work with your children to ensure that those behaviors are not repeated. The next step is we pull you into the conversation to try to offer some assistance. Maybe there are some tactics that you use that will be good for working with your children. And so it's a tiered situation. Once we get to the point where we're removing a child for behavioral issues, we are not required to provide a refund. Okay, this says regarding swim for Little Explorers, I have several questions, but I do not see the questions. So I'll continue to read to see if I run across them. Yes, yay on everyone having meals. That's very exciting. My director was adamant about making sure that that happened. Do they take naps? So as I mentioned, we don't call it nap time necessarily, but we do have downtime for our Little Explorers only. If you're not in Little Explorers or Verano, they will not have a downtime where they kind of rest, right? We also provide cots for the Little Explorers and Verano campers so that they can rest on those. Those are sanitized every day to make sure that, we're not putting them in any situation where germs are spread. So those are in fact cleaned properly. If they're in any camp other than Verano or Little Explorers, they do not go down for rest time. So you'll know there's a field trip when your facilitator advises. We will provide the facilitator with the full list of field trips and the dates, and they will be happy to share that with you as well at your particular sites. Absolutely. If you have a picky eater, please send them a lunch. And we know that that happens. We have some kids who they're just not feeling it and they want something else from home. If you do send a lunch for your picky eater, or just because, maybe there's some dietary restrictions, you just want to be extra careful, please remember that it has to be able to be self-sustainable. We do not have refrigeration capability. facilitators, as they're called, help children into their swimsuits. Yes, we have facilitators who can help the children into their swimsuits when they get to the pool. Some parents send the swimsuit underneath their clothing so that way they can just take their clothes off. And then when they're helping them out of the wet bathing suit, which they do before they leave the pool, there is some assistance with getting them out of those wet clothes. So when they take the bus to the pool, are they using a bus with seat belts or car seats? So none of the buses have seat belts or car seats. They are, again, DPR, governmental fleet buses that do not have those amenities, as are the charter buses that we contract through. They do not have seat belts or car seats. And that's included for the 3-year-olds. So the 3-year-olds are going to be on a bus that's a little smaller than the big seats that you might see for 10 or 11-year-old. So the buses are going to be smaller to be able to accommodate the smaller bodies. Do the facilitators have training in supervising multiple children swimming together? And what can we expect in terms of safety? So they do have training, but there are also trained lifeguards that are going to be at every aquatic facility. If they ever pull up to an aquatic facility for a pool trip and there is not sufficient lifeguards, they will not be allowed to swim. Okay, so we do in fact have trained lifeguards as it relates to the water. And so for our little explorers, typically we send them to pools that are called zero entry pools, which basically has an entry that's kind of like a beach, right? It's where the entrance is kind of slanted. They can walk themselves down to their comfortable height or depth of the pool. So any little explorer or Verano camper will be swimming at a pool that has a zero entry access point. Okay, we're on the wait list for 3 of the 4 sessions at the same location. All are single digits. How much advance notice will we receive a spot? So there's not going to be a ton of advance notice because we try to flip these spots open when they become available. So if a spot becomes available and your wait list number comes up, you will receive a call from our registration office saying a slot became open. Are you interested in taking it? And they'll typically give you about 48 hours to make a decision. Once that time has passed, we do move on to the next family on the wait list. So there's not a lot of lead time, unfortunately, because we don't know necessarily all the time when the slot's going to open up. But as soon as it does, we try to get that thing filled real quickly. So you may receive a call and or an email. So we ask that you make sure you keep good watch on both your email and your voicemail in case you miss a call. Be sure to check your spam. And in some instances, if you want to give us a call and say, hey, you know what, I'm number 3 on the wait list. How, where are we as far as the wait list movement? Someone should be able to give you an answer to that, someone from our registration office. We do not have parents chaperone field trips. We have plenty of staff to be able to do that. We have had parents sometimes meet us at a field trip, but we do not encourage parental chaperones because we're trying to get them adjusted to the camp environment. Does potty training include therapeutic campers? No, it does not. So our TR campers, our therapeutic recreation campers, they have to go through an assessment to be admitted to a TR camp. And if there is a potty training requirement or necessity, then our therapeutic recreation professionals are prepared to do that. But that's in the therapeutic camps only. There will not be an additional cost for these field trips. That's included in the cost that you paid for registering for camp. We do not allow floaties in the pool. That's an aquatics mandate. They do not allow floaties for the kids in the pool. And so, as I mentioned, for instance, the 3 to 5-year-olds, our Verano and Little Explorer campers are at a pool that has a zero entry. And typically the pool comes up to like their knee. We don't let them really go much further than that. And they do a lot of splashing around. They're not out there Olympic training. So they just really kind of get the feel for the water and the coolness of the water and have fun out there with their friends and their facilitators. So no floaties are allowed in the pools. And yes, soccer camps have swimming trips. Every camp will go swimming and every camp will have field trips. Another question about seatbelts. They do not have seatbelts in these vehicles. They're not required. I have a swim top, so they can wear that right. So as long as it's a child swim top, they can absolutely wear it. So some of the field trips that Little Explorers take could be, to a puppet show, to the smaller version of the splashdown, things of that nature. I actually don't have the list in front of me, but there are some amazing field trips that we have secured for all of our campers. Does Verano have a nap? Verano has a downtime, as does Little Explorers. They're the only two camps that have a downtime. So the children will have access to water, but we ask that you send a water bottle, a reusable water bottle, and make sure that you label it with their information, their name and phone number. All right, if the camper doesn't know how to swim, how are you going to keep an eye on them? So there's a lot of campers that can't swim. In fact, the majority of our campers, especially if they're tiny, they don't really know how to swim, right? And so a pool trip doesn't necessarily equate to a swim experience. A lot of times they're splashing around, you know, they're running as much as they can in the water, just having a good time with their friends. And we have more than enough people that are in the water physically with them. All of our facilitators are required to enter the pool. They can't be up on the deck. They can't sit on the side with their feet hanging. They are required to enter the pool. As I mentioned earlier, we also have SYPs who, you know, that allows us to have extra hands, extra eyes, extra feet, extra ears in the water to help keep them safe.
I'm sorry to unmute. I can't write anything in the chat.
Okay, give me 1 second, and then I will we can work with your question in a second. Okay, so on swim trip days, is the trip in the morning? The answer is yes. All of the swim trips occur between the 10 and 12 o'clock time frame. So yes. Should campers be dressed in swimwear or have it under their clothes? Completely your option, but of course it makes things move a lot faster if they have it on underneath their clothes. But we do have the ability for them to change it to their swim clothes on site. But again, that cuts into their swim time. So if they're already dressed for swim, we just have to pull their shirt and their shorts off and let them have at it with the swimming pool. That definitely makes for them to have a little bit more time in the water. All right, camper to staff ratio for Little Explorers is 1 to 5. And what about sunscreen? Okay, sunscreen, that's a good question. Please send sunscreen with your children. We will help them to apply sunscreen. Sunscreen is important, and that's for everybody. Sun rays can come and get on everybody. So please make sure you send the sunscreen. We will help them to apply the sunscreen. This says, is a problem if my child doesn't speak English very well. So no, it's not a problem. We will do everything in our power to communicate with your child. Limited English does not preclude any child from being able to participate in all of our activities. We will work with the child to make sure that we have a mutual understanding of the language that's being spoken. So this next one says, what about sunscreen? So as I mentioned before, please send sunscreen with your children. Maybe that's one of the things you throw in your backpack that you start to gather as you prepare for summer camp's beginning. And our pool's indoors or outside. It could be either or, and it really depends on which campsite your child is in. That will determine whether or not they're going to a pool that's outside or inside. So it could be one or the other. I'm not really sure at this point. It depends on where they're registered for camp. Peanut butter is not allowed. No peanut butter. Sun butter is fine, but no peanut butter. Okay, so someone said, I don't think the chat is enabled for mobile. I had to log in on a desktop. So if you're on a mobile, then that's probably why you can't access the chat. Okay, I signed my child up for 1 session, but we can't attend the first week. Could I still send my child to the second week? Absolutely. So if you are unable to attend the first part or the second part of a session, that slot is yours to use however you desire. We do ask that you contact the facilitator, or at this point, you won't know who the facilitator is. So if you want to send me an email or send an email to Kids, Camps, and Co-op, the word "and" is spelled out, then by all means do that, just to let us know my child is registered at Riggs LaSalle, but they won't be there for the first part of session 1. And we'll make sure to advise the facilitator so they're not worried about you and looking for you. Sunscreen, we will help apply sunscreen. And yes, nut-free for foods and snacks. So if you want to transfer from one program to another, the first part is there has to be a space available for you to transfer into, but you should contact our registration office, and you can reach them by calling 202-673-7647, and they can give you the best advice on how to transfer to another program if in fact there is a slot available. Are the mask policies in place for children and staff for indoor spaces? Yes, there are. You must have a mask. Both children and staff must wear a mask inside at all times. Why aren't there more Northwest sites available? Kennedy is closed. We didn't get in at Chevy Chase, and I didn't see much in Northwest. I don't know that that's the case. There are quite a few Northwest sites that have camp. Emory Heights has camp. Tacoma has camp. There are quite a few sites in Northwest. They probably just filled up really quickly. Kennedy actually isn't closed. We have one of our amazing divisions, the Roving Leader Division, that operates out of Kennedy. So it's not actually closed. It just does a different thing programmatically. So the focus has changed at Kennedy Recreation Center. Will you provide parents a copy of the camp schedule before camp starts? So there will be a camp schedule provided, and that will be given to you by your facilitator. Okay, this says, did I understand correctly that Discovery and Little Explorers will have lunch regardless of facility? That is correct. Every camp, not just Discovery and Little Explorers. So any camp that you signed up for will have lunch and will have breakfast. And again, some of the examples of field trips include museums, splashdown. There's a bunch of different ones, and I'm sorry I don't have them in front of me, but you'll be able to have information about those on the first day of camp. There's a doctor's appointment before camp or midday. Can they come late? Yes, we just ask that you advise the facilitator so that we know that that's the situation. All right, will there be summer youth workers working with the camps this year? Yes, we will have SYPs working with the camps this year. Will we receive a calendar ahead of time with each day's activities? It may not be a full calendar, but you will receive information on what types of activities are coming up for that week. I encourage all of the facilitators to create like a huge chart paper that lists the week's activities out, and you can of course take a picture of that with your camera. We're as green as possible here at DPR, so we don't like to do a lot of paper and handing out of collateral material in that regard. What form is being referred to that is needed for each session? So there's a set of forms that we require. They are the field trip form, the authorization form that you're saying your child can participate in camps at all. There is a parental acknowledgement form that says, yes, I received a copy of the parent handbook. And so these forms are what we need for each child at the beginning of each session. Will our specific location provide a schedule? Okay, so we talked about that already. Can a child self-administer an inhaler? Yes, they can. I've learned that most of them are very well versed in how to do that. And so we will, of course, monitor them. But if they feel like they need to administer their inhaler, then they're, of course, welcome to. Masks are not encouraged indoors. They are mandated. Hello, at the therapeutic camps, how do we go about meeting the aids that are assigned to your child? So with any camp, not just therapeutic, on the first day of camp, you'll be able to say a quick hello to your facilitator. And I say a quick hello because they have to go in and engage with children. They have to do that right away. So they don't have a lot of time to really engage with you on that first, especially on that first day. They got to get to know their children, get those children acclimated to the site. And so you'll be able to meet your facilitator on the first day, or their camp aide if there is one assigned. Will there be different options for lunch for children that have allergies? So to some degree, but there are some limitations that we'll have from our vendor. And so once those menus are supplied, we'll be able to provide the menu so that you can kind of see what's going to be served. Excuse me, so that if you have a child with allergies or they just don't like what's being served, then they can certainly, you'll be able to see that ahead of time so that if you want to make other arrangements for a meal for your child, you're welcome to do so. If on the wait list for session 2, when will we be notified if we got in? So if the space becomes available, you'll be contacted by our registration office via email and phone, and that's when you'll be notified. So again, that could be a very quick turnaround. I wish we had a different way that we could do that, but essentially if somebody releases a spot and we've seen that that spot has been released, we start going down the wait list to let people know that the spot is available and give you an opportunity to sign up. Verano has a cap of 15 per, so there'll be 15 in each Verano. All right, my daughter's birthday is during camp. Can we bring cupcakes and or goodie bags for the groups? Goodie bags, yes. Cupcakes, no. So you are certainly welcome to bring goodie bags, but we discourage cupcakes because we try to stay away from a lot of sweets. So goodie bags, please feel free. And don't put a lot of candy in the goodie bags, because then when they get sent home with the other kids' moms, we get yelled at for bringing, sending candy home. How do we contact the administrator before the camp starts? So, and by administrator, I think you might mean facilitator. So there isn't a way to contact them before they start. We are in an intense week of training. You'll meet the facilitator on the first day of camp. Next question says, if we are away for 1 week of a session at a Verano, is it still okay to join the second week only? And so, yeah, someone asked that same question earlier. You're certainly welcome to join the second week. We just ask that you advise the facilitator that you won't be around during that time frame. Info about the field trips will be provided once you get to camp. Medication and action plan should be shared on the first day of camp if you have that. And again, you do not pay for field trips. Okay, Kim. So yes, your question was, how do we know if we're in a rec camp or not? If you registered, your title of your camp would have said rec camp. If it didn't say rec camp, if it said discovery or little explorers or things of that nature, rec camp is just another type of camp that we have here at DPR. Okay, when we search Calorama, it says permanently closed. Is that true? That is not true. Calorama is spelled with a K, so that might be part of the issue. But Calorama Recreation Center is not closed. It is in fact open. It's actually open every day right now. Sunscreen, so for sunscreen, please send sunscreen with your children. They're not going to be outside tons and tons of times, but it would be helpful if you sent sunscreen, and we will definitely make sure that we help the kids to apply the sunscreen. How much screen time will the campers have? They shouldn't be having any. I'm not a fan of screen time. They can do that on their own. We should not be looking at TVs and movies and things of that nature. That's not something that I tolerate. So there should be no screen time. From time to time, if the kids are doing an activity and maybe there's a movie, a Disney movie that relates to it, they may call me and ask me if they can show that. I might or might not. I'm really not a fan of screen time in camp because there's so many other activities that they can engage in. We can watch TV at home. So we're not going to come to camp to look at TV. In screen time, I'm also talking about phones. In fact, don't send phones. Don't send expensive devices with your children to camp. There's nobody who's going to keep track of them. If it gets lost or stolen, DPR is not responsible for that. So please don't send those electronic devices with your children. That's phones, iPads, video games, handheld video games, and things of that nature. They're way too expensive and valuable for you to send them, and then they end up getting misplaced at camp. So we definitely don't want to send any kind of electronic devices to camp. Lafayette Pointer is different from Lafayette School. Lafayette Pointer is the recreation center where our little Explorer campers will be housed. Lafayette School will house our Discovery campers. Food menu will be provided on the first day of camp. We actually are waiting to get that from the vendor as well, but we will make sure that you have access to the food menu. All right, just wanted to say thank you to the amazing DPR staff for everything you're doing now and over the past 2 years as well. You are very welcome. Happy to have you. I'm glad you all are enjoying the camps. They're going to be fantastic. You probably will run into me from time to time because I like to hang out at the camps as well. This is where can I find a soccer camp? So if you check our website, you'll see where all the camps are located. I'm confident that the soccer camp is full though, but there is a possibility that you can add yourself to the wait list. And if a spot becomes available, then as I mentioned earlier, our registration office will give you a call. So the aqua camp is the same ratio. The 1 to 10 to 15 children is the same ratio. And the reason for that is because we have water safety instructors. When they do the wet side of camp at the pool, we have water safety instructors who will help with making sure that the children that are in the water are safe. And you don't have to be a very capable swimmer to be in aqua camp. That's not what aqua camp is about. It's not to teach you how to swim, but it's just to kind of get you acclimated to the water. So if they're not great swimmers, it's completely okay. There'll be plenty of aqua camp staff, as well as water safety instructors, as well as a lifeguard to make sure that your kids stay safe. Echo the gratitude. You're very welcome. I'm glad it's been informative. I can talk a lot. Sherwood does have before and after care because there are Little Explorers and I think Discovery at Sherwood. So yes, there is a before and after care at Sherwood. All right. How much time will children be inside and outside each day? That depends largely on the temperature. There are some points where we can't go outside because there is a heat advisory. And if there is a heat advisory, we do not go outside. It's not safe. And so we watch out for code red and code orange days. And we just kind of base it around that. If it's a very beautiful day, they're going to spend a lot of time outside. Our facilitators are outdoor people. And so they like to be outside. There's a lot of activities that they will be introduced to that take place outside. We want to try to make sure they get as much fresh air as possible. But we do want to keep them safe. So if there's a heat advisory, they will be inside in the AC. Let's see. Schedule for Discovery. As I mentioned, any camp that you go to, you'll see the schedule, that there will be a schedule provided for you. The buses are safe. We typically have great drivers, great drivers, great pieces of transportation. So the actual bus is a good bus. We make sure that all of our DPR fleet, they go through maintenance as often as they need to and as often as is required, as well as the charter buses. So the charter buses that we contract through, they have to go through certain safety inspections as well. So if they haven't passed that, then they are not allowed to even vie for a spot to be able to transport our children. So the buses are safe. Yes, self-inhalers, they can, inhalers, they can self-administer. Let's see. Oh, thank you. Y'all so sweet. I try. Okay, JELIF, same deal. When you get up to JELIF, there will be schedules made available for you from the JELIF staff. So no, you cannot send life jackets for swimming. They do not allow our water safety instructors and lifeguards do not allow you to send life jackets. And as I mentioned, there will be plenty of adults or young adults in the water with your children during the time that they're in the pool. And our lifeguards are also always on point to make sure that they're watching everything that's going on in the water. Most children, when they go on swim trips, they're not actually swimming, right? Because most of them don't have all that capability. They're just kind of hanging out and having a good time with their friends in the pool. But we do take every precaution to make sure that your children stay safe in the water. Can we leave anything at the center? For example, pillows and blankets. Yes, you can. And extra clothes. Excellent point. We ask that for all of our Little Exploring Verano campers that you send an extra set of clothing. We will have cubby holes that will be labeled with your child's name so that they can put those items in those cubby holes. We ask that on Fridays, though, that you take that stuff home and launder it so that it's nice and fresh, downy fresh on Monday. No electronics allowed. Please keep them at home. The yellow school buses have other safety measures approved by DOT. Unfortunately, I don't have that information. I leave the driving to the transportation professionals. As I mentioned, we have a DPR fleet. We have drivers who are CDL trained with passenger endorsements. So they're the experts in all of that, and we trust them. And the same goes for our contractors. They have DOT authorizations with passenger endorsements and things of that nature. So we allow the professionals to manage that part. If kids bring an EpiPen, will the staff be able to keep it somewhere close by and take it to on a field trip? So yes, if your child has an EpiPen prescribed, please make sure that when you send that, there is a copy of the prescription from the practitioner that says Tania Butler has this EpiPen. The instructions also need to be included on how to administer. As I mentioned, our staff will be trained in EpiPen administration, but we want to make sure that we follow exact instructions on how to administer it for your child in particular. So if your child has an EpiPen, please send it, put it in a Ziploc bag with the child's name on it, and make sure that the instructions and a copy of the prescription are contained therein as well. And we keep it away from everyone right? But we have it accessible if we need to in fact use it. Should children bring a backpack? It never hurts to bring a backpack because before you know it, they're doing arts and crafts. They have an extra apple from lunch. They want to bring all this stuff home. It's good to just be able to have a backpack to throw that into. So yes, they can have a backpack. Again, just make sure that you label it with your child's name and phone number. Will staff remind the kids at Little Explorers to drink water? They forget with all the play. So yes, every camper will be encouraged to continue to hydrate all day. We do recognize the importance of making sure they stay hydrated. So that's a constant, make sure you drink all day, water. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm on a mobile, you have to touch the screen and then the chat icon. Okay. So on a mobile, if you touch the screen and then the chat icon appears at the top of the screen. Thank you, Sarah, for that tidbit. I can post the email into the chat. Let me do that right now. Oops.
I've done so and still can't.
Okay, give me 1 second. Kids, camps, and co-op at dc.gov. Okay, I've put our email into the chat. Uh-oh, and then that kicked me to the bottom. Hold on, let me see. No. Give me 1 second, everyone. Heading back up to where I left off. Oh, there we go. Okay. Are the facilitators the same for all sessions or do they change for each session? So as long as they stay employed with DPR, they will be the same facilitators. Sometimes there are changes. Sometimes people leave, a couple different things may happen where they're no longer affiliated with the agency. So that will be the only time that it would change. And again, I have put the email into the chat. I will also put the phone number in there in a second. I just don't want to lose my place, so bear with me. Will masks be provided? If not, how many can children bring? So they won't be provided as like in, a camp issued mask. We ask that you send masks with your children. We will have some extras just in case a strap pops or they lose it. So we don't have a high inventory of those. So please make sure you send masks with your children. As many as you would like, throw them in the backpack. Thanks so much for the info. Yes, DPR camps are awesome. I agree. I think we're awesome here at DPR too. And so are our camp families. We love you. All right, will breakfast and lunch menu be provided weekly? Actually, I think they do it over a month, but you'll have access to the menu on the first day of camp. Are we going to be allowed into the rec centers this year? How can I gently say no? Right? So we want to make sure that we do our check-ins on curbside. And again, that's for safety reasons. We want to make sure that we don't have too much foot traffic going in and out of our buildings. That's for the safety of your children and our staff. So check in and check out when you bring your children to check in for the day and you come and pick them up in the afternoon will be curbside. Is there some place to store an inhaler and extra change of clothes? Yeah, so we will have cubbies in the camp locations. Inhalers should come back daily because you may need your inhaler at home. So your inhaler should go back and forth with you every day. EpiPen as well. Any documents needed with the EpiPen? Yeah, so the documents needed with the EpiPen are detailed instruction sheet and a copy of the practitioner's order for the EpiPen that clearly displays your child's name. All right, I reached out to registration about the status of the wait list, and they said your wait list number does not change, and they said they could not provide an update. Okay, so the only time it doesn't change, your wait list number doesn't change, is if nobody has left the camp, right? So if there's a full camp and you're on the wait list, if nobody surrenders one of those slots in the camp, then no, your wait list position will not change. It only changes if someone surrenders a slot. And if they don't have an update, if they don't have any updated information to provide you, that means that there has been no movement on the wait list. Child might be late on the first day of camp due to dentist appointment. Heads up. Okay, no problem. Got to get the choppers together. We understand. I'm excited to see your kids at camp too. We're very excited. Tacoma Aquatic Center is working toward an end of month open. I missed the pool too, Lincoln. Yes, we're going to get you squared away with Tacoma Aquatics, but we want to make sure it's safe. So those upgrades are important. I appreciate all the kudos. Thank you. Great job. Da, 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 da. Thanks for the information. Are there any camps at Stoddard? So yes, there is a camp at, we actually call it Glover Park, but there will be camps at Glover Park. Because that's housing a school, they of course only have sessions 1 through 3, and I think they're all full, unfortunately, but there is campus at Glover Park, aka Stoddard Elementary. Nothing at Hurst Elementary, not this year. Basketball camp is full, filled up very quickly. All our future NBA stars. The rec camps close at 3 p.m. with no aftercare option. Are there any options for working moms? So unfortunately, the rec camp, because of the design of it, right, it's one of our lower price point camps. Amazing camp nonetheless, but it does, because of the price point, we do have to have some different guidelines associated with that. So unfortunately, that camp does close at 3 and we don't have an aftercare option for that. The only alternative I would recommend is that you look for a camp that's a full day camp, if anything is available. And again, if something is available, you should be able to see that on our website. So if you go to our website and try to do camp registration, whatever's available or open will show on our website, and that's dpr.dc.gov. Now let's see. Oh, I love it. What happens if it rains at the Little Explorers camp in Mitchell Park? Is there indoor space? So Mitchell Park actually has a recreation center. It's one of our smaller field houses, but there is indoor space at Mitchell Park. The camp at Mitchell Park is not held outside. I mean, except for when they go outside, but there is an actual field house location at Mitchell Park. I'm excited for the children too. We can't wait, Shay. Let's see, how do we give the medication action plan? Okay, I think I shared this earlier, but just for the benefit of the group, the medication or the EpiPen action plan, please put it in a Ziploc bag. Make sure you have a detailed list of instructions and a copy of the practitioner's order with your child's name clearly outlined. You can enroll in before and after care whenever it's convenient for you. Even if you're in camp and you haven't secured a before and after care slot because you didn't think you would need it, and later on you're like, you know what, before and after care will be beneficial. It's still there available for whenever you want to register. So you could be in the middle of a session and decide you need before and after care. It's still available for you to register. So whenever you're ready, just feel free to go ahead onto our web track and take care of that. Okay, is there any difference? Uh-oh, I went down too much. Is there any difference between the discovery camps at different locations? No. No difference. There's different facilitators, different kids, and the location is different. The curriculum is the same. The supplies are the same. The field trips are the same. So all the amenities are the same. Discovery camp looks the same across the city. It doesn't matter where you are. Good. I'm glad I was able to ease your mind. Your kids are in good hands. We love the babies. Academic activities provided, not so much. You know, we try to focus on learning through play. So there will be some things that they learn and pick up, but we don't focus too much on academics. We're not educators, we're recreators. So we try to focus, we stay in our lane in that regard, but they will be learning through play for sure. If I have an extra inhaler, can I leave it there? No, we don't want you to leave inhalers at the location. Please send them on a day-to-day. Any camps in Georgetown, DuPont Circle, McPherson Square. So we have a couple of sites in near Georgetown, Rose Park, Volta Park, Mitchell Park. Those are probably the closest to like the Georgetown/DuPont Circle area. None in McPherson Square because we don't have any downtown locations. All right, at Jelliff, will the kids be able to swim every day? Will they be able to change in locker rooms or rinse off in the shower? Are Crocs okay for all day wear? And okay, Yes, kids love the Crocs. My daughter, who's 22, also loves the Crocs. So there isn't any camp that's going to swim every day unless you're in Aqua Day Camp. And even in Aqua Day Camp, there are some days where they focus on campy activities, right? Arts and crafts, learning songs, entertaining, being entertained by enhancements. So there isn't any camp that swims every single day. No. They will be able to change in the locker rooms at the pools. We do not put them in the showers. We essentially just take them out of the wet clothes and put them in the dry clothes, and we move forward that way. Is there a requirement for COVID tests or proof of vaccination at the camps? There is not a requirement for COVID tests, nor is there a proof of vaccination requirement for children at the camps. How much pool versus non-pool time is Aqua Day Camp? Realize none on rain and thunder days. So I would say a 50-50 split for Aqua, because we want to make sure that they have some of the camp activities also incorporated. We have lots of great enhancements, people coming in to provide different sorts of, enhancing activities. So it's probably a 50-50, but they'll get plenty of time in the water to be able to get comfortable with the water and gain a respect for the water. Swim shoes are okay. Yes. Goodness, and I think I've made it to the bottom of the chat. So I'm going to close out the chat. I see a few hands. So I'll try to pull them. Give me 1 second. All right, Brenda Jones. Let's go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, thank you so much. You really have already answered my question. You answered a lot of concerns, and thank you very much for being so thorough. Yeah, but you've answered my question.
Okay, outstanding. Love to see it. Let's see. Uh-oh. I might need your help, Tania. Hold on. Okay. Tierra Nolan.
What's the difference between the camps as far as like the activities go? Because my daughter is signed up for rec and I've been listening, and it like, what will the recs be doing with the kiddos? Does it sound like all the activities in the camps?
So rec camp is a camp.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, it's just a different type of camp. We have discovery, we have basketball, we have culinary. Rec camp is just a different type of camp. So
okay,
all of our camps,
like
happen pretty much in a rec center, but rec camp is actually a type of camp. So it's simply a day camp that runs from 9 to 3. It's a slightly abbreviated day and just a different price point. There isn't much of a difference. They'll have the same activities as any other camp. So that's arts and crafts, that's enhancements, that's recreation activities like a pickup game of kickball. Everything is the same.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And let me just scroll down. Sorry, y'all, I should have on some readers, but yeah, I don't. Okay, I think we, maybe not. Let me look here real quick. Tania, do you see any other hands? Ms. Brenda Jones, can you put your hand down for me so I can kind of see if anybody else might have their hand up? Thank you. Okay, I don't think I see any more hands. Outstanding. Here we are. It's not quite 8 o'clock. If there are no other questions, I will, E, you don't have a full name, so I'm gonna just call you E. Hopefully you know who I'm referring to. E? You just popped your hand up, E.
Can you hear me? Hi, good evening.
Yes, I can hear you.
My daughter's birthday is on the 29th. Is it okay if we bring cupcakes to her camp?
Did you ask that question in the chat?
No, I didn't. I came a little
Everybody
late,
has birthdays in the summer. I wish. Oh, so, okay. So you cannot bring cupcakes. We try to discourage the sweets. So we're going to have to say no for the cupcakes. If you want to bring goodie bags, if somebody asks about goodie bags, you're more than welcome to do that. If you want to come in and just, have the kids sing happy birthday to them, then we can have a conversation with your facilitator about that. But we discourage the sweets, so no cupcakes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much. Okay, let me see if I can find this other hand. E, can you put your hand down for me, please, so I can see who this other guest is who might have their hand up? Okay, that might be it, actually. All right, so if there are no other questions, I don't think there's anything else in the chat except kudos, which we certainly appreciate. We can't wait to see you. Looking forward to seeing your kids, having them hang out with us for a couple of weeks in the summer. Super excited to be getting back into stride, as Frankie Beverly says, back in stride. That's what we're doing here at DPR. So we are happy to welcome your children back with open arms. That's all I have. Thank you very much for your attendance. Good night. Make sure you keep your emails on the lookout for these forms and things of that nature that might be coming through, or just general information about camp. If in case I have another update, it will come out via email. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. You were great.
So
Oh,
much.
thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. You are
Thank
amazing.
you. Oh, so this should be the one I put on the
Thank
website.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
doing
Y'all have a
amazing
good
job.
evening.